Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Commerce Lab by Ecomcy, the place of anything related to Amazon FBA, private label, and e-commerce. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, your founder and CEO here. I want to start this episode by giving an amazing welcome to my friend Matthew, which is a very close friend of mine. We actually met in Vegas a couple of months back. We had an amazing experience there at the Alibaba event. And the reason why I wanted to bring Matthew today is because we're going to be talking about an amazing topic, which is AI, which we know has been a topic very hot when it comes to
Go
everybody
figure.
talking about this. Yeah,
Go
exactly.
figure. Podcast on AI.
And before I give the word to Matthew, I just want to say that he basically started this amazing company, Mass Commerce AI, which is basically specializing on finding all the solutions AI, using AI to help you scale your business. So I know that's also going to be part of the conversation today. So before we go any deeper, let me welcome you to the show once more, Matthew. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having
It's
me.
a pleasure, man. How's everything going?
Yeah. So your audience knows you as Vincenzo, or can we say Enzo from here on in?
I
Can
mean,
you?
to be honest, it's funny because depending on the location. So if I go to Mexico, they call me Vicente.
Mhm.
If I go to in Europe, like especially in Latin America, South America, Vincenzo, yeah. If
Mhm.
I go to Europe, they get confused between Vincent or Vincenzo. Like the right way is Vincenzo, but you're open to call me as you wish. And
Well,
Enzo is very Italian. Yeah,
I won't say Vinny. What would your grandmother call you?
Enzo.
Okay, we'll do that. Grandmother's best.
Yeah.
And for the record, I have very little memory of the Vegas event, so still in the audience.
I
But
know
yeah,
everything was a bit blurry. Yeah.
that was quite a ride. Yeah, good to be here, man. I've been watching your show for a while, and sometimes I see some familiar faces and mutual friends, and sometimes I see some cool new people. So
Yeah.
it's cool. Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I just want to, start with a little bit about you because I know you have a very interesting background and also a lot of years when it comes to this space. So tell me a little bit about, who is Matthew, how you jump into e-commerce, and then what led you to basically now open and focus your new company around AI. Yeah.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah. Why is he here? Where do we start? Why do we care? Yeah, I'm a native Midwesterner. I mean, grew up in Indiana, and studied all sorts of things in college that I'm not really learning anymore. Although we'll get to one of the things that I actually studied, which was environmentalism and sustainability. Which I don't want to bury the lead, but there's a piece to that, I think, in the reason for the new company. But I moved to New York as a musician, singer, songwriter, composer.
Mhm.
Aspiring, and had a
At least.
pretty amazing first couple of years, in Manhattan. Ran a nightclub for a while, just like crazy
Wow.
stuff. But just kind of tripped into, the real world of professional whatever, through some friends who had a boutique agency, doing full service comms and marketing, and
Yeah.
strategy for what we would have called the gay market back then, now LGBTQ, plus.
Yeah.
But it was cool because I just got a crash course, like at the age of 23, in all things advertising and marketing. I mean, depending on the day and the client, I was wearing the copywriter hat, or the art director hat, or the, comms planning hat, or the digital media buying hats, like, or and it was cool because it was this unique moment in time where it was, it was this new opportunity. I mean, you're too young, Enzo, to know this, but like, we're talking about like Sex in the City, like
Wow.
OG Sex in the City, right?
I can imagine.
And HBO sort of realized, oh, there's a gay following. That's one of our core markets, and we need people to figure out how to position this and advertise it. So it was cool. Got to work with HBO and Target and Mercedes-Benz and Wells
Wow.
Fargo, and just I realized, looking back now, how lucky I was to just get that sort of experience and the keys to that
Yeah.
kingdom. And probably spoiled me, for later when it got
I
harder.
can imagine.
But yeah, I eventually got into BD, selling the agency services, working on their client dev, and then that took me kind of to the hopping over to actual sales. So I started in ad sales, like literally at magazine ad sales, and my parents at the time. It's like a lot of things in e-commerce. Like, if we try to talk to our parents about what we actually do, they're
Yeah, I
maybe
know.
now
I know.
we're a little more sophisticated, but back in the early 2000s, it was like I'm pretty sure for at least the first year, they thought I was selling magazine subscriptions door to door. But that was cool. I got to work with a lot of the big houses, Men's Health, and then eventually Condé Nast. Got to be at Wired, for a couple of years during their huge digital transformation, and also working with Reddit, which continues to be the biggest site today. But the journey was basically, going into these legacy brands. I mean, I worked for Fast Company for 3 years during their transformation. And if we have time, I'll tell a story about that experience. But always kind of transformative roles on the revenue side at increasingly digital, sort of voice brands. Pure plays, apps, etc. And then the knock on the door, from Walmart was the opportunity to launch their retail media network. But this was 5 years ago, when really the only game in town there was Amazon and their PPC. Certainly the biggest of the big box retailers hadn't done it yet. But it was like the aha moment there, I think, was we've got the biggest data lake in the world, and we would often joke that but getting
what do we
insight.
do?
Like we're crossing in a rowboat and fishing fish out with our hands. Fast forward to today, it's definitely like a solid number 2, I think, behind Amazon ads. Jeff, did you hear that? Jeff, I said number 2.
Be careful.
He's not listening to this.
Take action.
He's busy writing his newsletter. But yeah, so like I got to be on the launch team, of that.
Wow, what a journey that
company, right? And doing the change management internally and building that, and really gratifying. It was like learning from a fire hose. And then got bit by that bug and wanted to get deeper into e-commerce. And so then I moved into the e-commerce division to kind of relaunch the third-party marketplace for Walmart, which is sort of, how I met you and, that whole great gaggle of, crazy kids that are the Amazon kind of seller.
The Amazon gang.
Yeah, the Amazon gang. I don't know if you're going to Austin next week. Are you?
I mean, they're trying to convince me.
Is it before your trip to Naples?
Yes. So the thing is, if I go, it would be basically in and out. So I might. It might be a surprise. It depending. Maybe you're having your cognac or your whiskey and appear out of nowhere. So
exactly. All right. Well, we'll wait with bated breath. But yeah, I mean, I think so. Kind of to link to where the topic of launching a company. I think after that great experience of 5 years, and just meeting so many talented people, getting to be, on the rocket ship of our 2 innovation businesses, and then also like getting to rub shoulders with great entrepreneurs, it just kind of reminded me, looking back, that I'm like, I think I've always kind of wanted to be an entrepreneur. I probably always should have been, but I've been trying to do it within big companies, particularly this last 5 years at Walmart. I just sort of, the stars aligned here. Some things in my my personal life, and I'm 45, which I'm not supposed to say and tell people my age, right? But I'll say it because I think it's actually the average age of of an entrepreneur when they start their first business, right? And I'm happy to be average.
Yeah, why not?
And so thinking about like, well, what do I do? Like, what can I offer? What do I have to say? Like, what do I want to do? And what can I do? Who do I know that can help me? Just really been swimming in that soup, for the past few months, trying to figure out what can I do that's going to be fun, right? And also challenging and just, I think, important and like necessary. So even the name Mass Commerce AI has just changed. Like I bought the domain for something else, and the trademark search is already, and now I have to go back. I don't know if I can just switch the name, but things are moving. As you know, you're not.
It's actually good. I like the name.
You wouldn't have liked the previous one then, and so, so we're not going to tell anybody that one. But like, so
secret.
But that's also just a testament to like, I think how cool it is to be in a network of great people who are doing their own version of that. It's like you can, you can spaghetti test any idea with, just you can WhatsApp somebody who knows, right? And they'll be like, no, right? Or yes, and right. So, but there's been some other things happening, which is I've been getting really into AI. I'm in a few positions now. I'm technically an AI influencer.
I can see that on LinkedIn already. AI evangelist.
Just like, calling myself an influencer. But what it really is a wonderful research firm, Coresight Research, which Deb Weinswig founded and is the CEO of. I mean, and they've been, Deb's the kind of person who has a China phone, a Hong Kong phone, and a Western, US phone. And, you have to sort of message her on all channels, because she's just everywhere.
To get a signal.
but
Yeah.
she, she's been way into retail and on the analytics and sort of, market consulting, for a long, long time. And so they're deeply embedded in the retail sector. And she's just a huge voice. And, she had this idea to bring together kind of good minds in a way that can talk about, well, we all have a strong vested interest in AI succeeding. How do we do that? And what do we need to be thinking about? And so, it's kind of a secret club called the Coresight Research AI Council. We did an event this week, the first summit, which was not secret. We were, asking people to register to come. Really, really wonderful. But mostly, what we do is we have conversations and we create content to talk about how do you balance profitability with responsibility. So this idea of like ethics and opportunity, right? And all of these questions about, the technology is changing so quickly. It has so much opportunity to radically change the world. We want to make sure that we do that in a way that's positive, right? That we avoid, sort of watch outs and potholes, that we ensure equity, and we make sure that, the maximum amount of people and groups and companies and interests, can be a part of the AI revolution, right? And benefit from it. And so that's super cool. I've also joined the board of Centric AI, which we might talk about a bit later, which is absolutely like a SaaS platform, right? That is about linking supply chain, all the way downstream to customer behavior signals, and how do you actually make purchasing and sourcing and shipping decisions in real time based on the highest confidence sort of insights that we're getting, not based on what the product did last year or 6 months ago or last quarter, right? But like, what are we seeing now? And then what do we know about the customer we're targeting and what we think is going to happen? That's super exciting. And so, there's a lot happening. Mass commerce AI then, where we sort of landed is there's an enormous need here for two things, right? I think, and really, if you think about, we're talking about the commerce sector. I call it the commerce sector, which includes certainly brand owners, the sellers, the e-commerce seller community, the retailers and e-tailers, but also the SaaS platforms and providers, right? And the solution providers. I think they know two things, right? They know, number one, they need to lean in, or at least particularly in bigger companies where there's like corporate communications and brand image concerns, they need to be seen to be leaning in, right?
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
number one. Number two, most of us have no idea where to start, right?
Exactly.
And at the event a couple days ago, I actually had fun. I kicked off on the panel. I just said, like, by show of hands, raise your hand if you know what GPT stands for. And I said, I promise I'm not going to call on you and make you say, right? But I would say less than 20% of the audience raised their hand, right? And again, that's not to indict anybody. It's just to show that, like, we get really, really excited about something without, going a couple
we
of
don't
layers.
go deep. That's the thing.
Yeah. So that's the thing, right? It's all the hype. It's all the rage now. That's not to say there's not huge opportunity, but there's so much noise, right? And it can be so overwhelming, right? And kind of scary. So, that's number one and two. It's like, we got to do it, but we don't know where to start. So, my background as an advertising marketing leader, as a commerce leader, launching two, 10-figure businesses within the world's largest company, which is a lot about internal selling and external selling, right? Managing different stakeholders in a matrixed fashion. Like, how do you find sort of value alignment, right? And something that works for my business that's going to drive your business, right? We're all doing some version of that, but particularly in these big companies where they tend to be very siloed and matrixed. And it's the old joke at Walmart is, if you work for Walmart, you figure out what's happening at Walmart by talking to people outside of Walmart, And I don't think Walmart's unique in that regard, except for the fact that they are the very, very largest example of that, right? But so I think, the opportunity is really to help and figure out, what can I do to sort of help that, right? And if I feel like I want to be a part of this revolution that helps the maximum amount of companies and people derive the maximum benefit from AI, right? What's the role that I can do there? And I think what I can do there, right, is first as a consultant, right, and as an advisor, kind of come in and just assess and start asking questions and getting the stakeholders to ask the questions, right? And I think an important way of framing this, and this was something that came up in the event this week, is don't have an AI project. Use AI to help your existing projects, right? Because an AI project is just giant and amorphous, and like, how do I attack that? I don't even know what it means. How's it going to help my business? And that's too big and fuzzy and ill-defined to be effective, right? Because where we are with AI now is it's highly tactical, it's highly use case specific, and you have to know the use case, right? Even something like ChatGPT, generative AI can do a lot of different things, but you have to be really prescriptive with those prompts, right? Otherwise, you just get double, and it's getting better with each release. But the reality is, right now, the best way to use AI, right, is to really start from your own business KPIs. What do I need to achieve, right? And how can, and just look at it like any other tool, right? In the same way that, digital became, a new way of doing business, right? And then, when you're advertising, right, using the data and targeting, right, automation, auto bidding, like the whole revolution and journey, right, of this is just always about, a new tool helping you do something better, right? I think it's rare that, a technology comes out that fundamentally changes the foundations of your business, right? I mean, it certainly can launch new businesses, but we need to look at it through the goggles of what are we trying to achieve, right? And then what new tools are out there to help me do it better and faster, at better margin, lower level of effort, et cetera, right? So that's a big part of what we do, right? Is provide guidance, understand first their business needs, and then put together the framework and the strategy for the pieces of that we can push on, right? Using specific AI technologies and partners, right? And so, mass commerce AI is not, it's not like the old ad agency that there's an RFP and a review process that lasts months and months and months, and then one of the global holding companies gets the business, and they just have the business until they get fired. No, it's more like we're here to provide guidance, right? And we're working on a project basis in 3 or 6 months. Probably no more than a year for some of our largest clients. Particularly where the change management piece is really critical, because with AI, the KPI is what really drives the stakeholder that you're going to be working with, right? And particularly in large companies, you have a lot of different interests that you have to sort of herd the cats on, and so getting those people to the table together and finding out what are the technologies, whether it's look, I just need somebody to help me import my listings from my current Shopify or my current Amazon. There's 1,000 items in the assortment. I can't afford, or I don't have time, holidays coming up. I need the organic relevancy to be, I need the listing quality to be at 80 plus, man, like yesterday. But like, how to do that? So there's partners, as like that are out there doing that. Friends of ours who there's all sorts of tools.
Exactly.
And,
I
there's also examples.
Go on. Sorry.
No. It's just like that's what it is, right? And I think working with them to marry their KPIs directly to things that they can push on now, right? And then versions of that based on the client need, right, will be more evolved, right, in terms of quarterly, sort of biannual, et cetera. But I'm also not so, I have no delusions that I can create a business model even for my company that is going to necessarily be relevant, even 6 months from now, because the technology is changing so quickly. A big part of this is going to be understanding how much of it can companies start to build internally, how much is going to need to be partnered on. How much guidance, like when we get companies through that first phase of general understanding of like what the ecosystem is and, where it can help. Like I'm not so arrogant as to, I don't think I have a crystal ball that says, this is what a consultancy would look like 6 months from now. Right. So I think we just got to stay plugged in and
be dynamic.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah. I think first of all, your journey is crazy amazing. Like, you have so many experiences, and I think that at the same time, that's such an amazing thing that I'm sure is helping you in your business right now, because you have points of views from different areas and different business units. That's key when it comes to driving a business forward. So first of all, congrats for that. Like, your journey is been great so far, and I think coming back to your business, the idea itself is such also such an innovative idea, because I'm thinking like one of the things that I see with my customers and people that come to me when they comes to AI is that they will say, okay, I want to start using AI. They start playing with ChatGPT, some of the basic AI out there. They don't really
Mhm.
understand how to leverage that within their business. They stop, they don't go deeper, and that's it. It ends
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
But I think what is going to happen is like business that really understand the power of AI, they will really want to hire consultants like you that they really understand and have mastered the craft of how to really integrate AI. Because let's be honest, I don't have the time. Like for example, myself, my focus is Amazon and Walmart running ads. I don't have the
Absolutely.
time to understand how I can put AI on my business. So of
Great point.
course, the need is gonna grow that I need to hire people like yourself and your company to come in, see all the mess inside my business and tell me, okay, you should be replacing all this with AI, these processes, these tools.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
a huge amount of value there. Like I haven't seen any agency offering that, because I see like AI starts to become more and more relevant on our industry. People are gonna need experts, and I think you are ahead of the lot by doing this. So yeah, I just wanted to say that it's a very good idea. Yeah.
Well, I'm not anymore because we just gave the idea to how many people listen to this?
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
but here's where I think, again, your point about like, yeah, they don't know where to start, right? But also the time savings. Again, we all have like, well, I used to be able to say we, but now, it's like, I'm doing my own thing. But most people, right, their time is spoken for. Most people work for somebody, and even if you're an entrepreneur, like again, you're already booked to the nines, and you're just chasing it,
Exactly.
right? So it's like, how do you add this new thing into an already overbooked, bursting sort of day? But also, and another member of the council, Janice Wang, actually, who's deep into the apparel, particularly on the sourcing side and using AI, right, to help on sourcing and manufacturing and marrying that back to things like sizing.
Mhm.
The name of her company escapes me right now, and she won't like that. But this idea of she's really hot on like, because I did this explainer video a few weeks ago, which just asked
Mhm.
a lot of people from all walks in the industry, a lot of people in our mutual network. If you were in a room full of business school students, what's the one thing you would want to tell them about AI? And then we actually took that into Columbia Business School
Mhm.
and Pace University computer science program, the next week. But the thing that Janice would say is, make sure it becomes a part of everyone's workday. Every associate in your company has to
Exactly.
be touching it, right? Because that's how you get the group learning, right? That's how you help each other avoid potholes. That's how you share experiences generally. But like, that doesn't just happen, right? It has to be sort of intentionally implemented. And if it does just happen, and if you don't have sort of a key stakeholder, an executive leader in the company monitoring and sort of managing that, then it's going to go in all sorts of directions, right? And what that's going to do is
Mhm.
it's going to start distracting people from the North Star
Exactly.
of your business because it's cool, right? And so the other point I would make here is that, and I think this is the core part of the opportunity, is you really need sort of a God's eye view, right, or perspective on how we're going to use AI now, and then how we're going to change that implementation over time, right? Because even now, new as it is, I mean, Gen AI is only one part of it, right? And even though it's the sexy thing that's getting all the headlines, right? Particularly this whole, Sam Altman thing last week, and I actually posted on my LinkedIn that I'd accepted a new position as CEO of OpenAI.
To see if he applies, in case he applies.
Just for a gag. It was sort of like disturbing because I think fully a third of my network probably didn't know who Sam Altman or OpenAI was, and they literally thought that I had become the CEO of this company. Anyway, but it's like, you need someone, right, that is making those decisions, because the reality is, even as nascent as it is today, with Gen AI, you've got a whole history now of AI for many, many years. I mean, machine learning is not new, right? I mean, when I was at Fast Company on the ad side, right, we were working with Cisco and SAP,
Mhm.
like, and Intel, and that was the buzzword then, right? I mean, HANA or whatever you pronounce it, was SAP's first sort of attempt at a single view, right, of like, here's how the business looks now based on all these inputs, all the way upstream in the supply chain. And that was more than 10 years ago, right? So
Mhm.
there's another huge piece of AI here, which is actually not generative AI. It's what they would call traditional AI, right? It's still machine learning, but it's doing all sorts of different things. So if you take like all of that, right, that's been evolving and the evolution accelerating, and now layer onto that this other piece called generative AI, right? There's a lot of things that you can be using AI for in your business. Now, someone needs to basically look at all of that and decide where we're going to put our time and our investment.
Exactly.
Right? And it needs to be, again, back to the original point, it has to be reverse engineered from your KPIs. Like, what are your business goals? But more importantly, we've all got a lot of KPIs, and if you're in a big organization, your supply chain folks have standards they have to hit, right? Your merchandising, org has margin goals and things like that. You've got a marketing department that's trying to, hit a certain number of impressions and, net promoter scores and sort of brand sentiment and it's like, you got to make choices, right? And so to land the plane there, I think, again, what I'm excited about is getting this conversation at the right table, right, of the executive leadership. And here's an example, right? We didn't talk about this, but another founding principle of mass commerce AI is that we're going to be the one who puts these pieces together in a way that drives not just profitability, but sustainability goals.
Exactly.
Right? In my judgment and in my view right now, nearly all of the AI solutions, whether it's the new Gen AI applications or, again, the traditional AI machine learning stuff, they're fundamentally about improving productivity, increasing efficiency, right? Reducing output or the inputs you have to put in, to get a certain output. And in commerce, right, commerce broadly, nearly all of those outcomes are about driving profitability, but nearly all of them have a carbon impact, a carbon footprint impact, right? It's something, here's an example, right? So, Infinite, which is, about imagery, they did the Hay Needle shaped room, they did some work with Walmart, but you're seeing their work in a lot of places. Other partners, Lily AI, Scale AI, Echo, right? Big part of that service is, okay, look at the Amazon ecosystem, right? 2 million sellers or whatever. What is it? 350 million items, right, in the ecosystem. How can I drive conversion, right, and reduce returns? Well, something like an Infinite basically says, send us 4 static images from different angles, right? And our algorithm, our AI tech will render, right, in various ways. We can put it in situ, right, in a room, in a situation, in a scenario, in a living room. If it's furniture, we can put it on a person. If it's apparel, we can produce 360s spins, and we can probably, at some point do video as well. And we can do that for a very, very small fraction of the cost of a custom photo shoot, and we can do it nearly instantaneously, right? So, the supply chain, the carbon footprint impact of that is huge because it reduces the cloud computing power, right, normally required, right, which is about energy consumption. It reduces the need for you to send a product sample, right, out and use the delivery of that, particularly if you're, manufacturing in the East and you're using a partner for photography, in the West or whatever. So on the production side, right, there's huge implications, but then also the use case is basically, this allows me to tell my customer more, tell them better, show them more and better for them to make better and more informed decisions, right, about what they buy, which if you follow that all the way, through the journey, is going to mean fewer returns, right? And fewer returns means less reverse supply chain, which is good. It's good for retailers because, particularly in apparel, with the wardrobing, phenomenon, which is, we've all been trained by the fast fashion folks, and I'll go all the way to blaming, OG Bonobos and maybe even, the shoe folks before that. Oh, you know what? It's okay. We've got a model here where I'm going to buy 5 things and I'm going to keep one and, return the other 4. Obviously not sustainable, obviously margin killer. And it's a carbon killer as well, right? So I think there's a really, really cool opportunity here to recognize and actually attribute, right, the impact of these AI solutions, not just on their ability to drive margin and profit, right, and to improve customer sentiment, but also attribute the carbon savings, right? And if we can start to get those things working together, then what's cool about that in big organizations, again, back to sort of matrix orgs with, different sort of power centers, I think it gets sustainability out of the back of the bus where it's been, which is kind of a nice to have, right? Yeah. It's not, very few.
It's not a priority.
It's not a priority. And so it's not actually hardwired into the business KPIs. There are some exceptions, right? Walmart, Project Gigaton, mission to remove a gigaton worth of carbon out of the ecosystem over the next few years. That certainly becomes a negotiating point with large, legacy 1P suppliers and their JBPs, right? But it obviously doesn't have the teeth of like, what innovation you bring in.
Yeah.
So I think this could actually be a really interesting way of getting that sustainability stakeholder power center in the company, which is really corporate communications, constituent affairs, public relations, and marketing, brand marketing, right? Because we as a company are trying to represent values that we think our customers care about, and sustainability is one of those. We saw a really not great example of that, in recent years, which eventually became this idea of greenwashing, right? Which is, I just have to have enough money to be doing enough things, and saying it loud enough to enough people that, I'll be seen as sort of a green, company concerned with sustainability. But I think what's cool is with this now, we're going to have a way to actually quantify that in a way that, this is where I sort of land the plane. It eliminates the false choice between profitability and sustainability, right? Because you can do both. I mean, in fact, you have to, because the more sustainable solution is 9 times out of 10 going to be the more profitable one, right? And the last thing I'll say about that is, much as we would love all of our customers to care about sustainability and be tree huggers and want to save the planet, right? Some people just want cheap shit fast, right? Or great shit fast, or cheap shit slow, even, like that's the Temu example. But do they really care about, whether it's made of bamboo or plastic? A lot of, some people don't. And I think, look, there's a sort of pragmatism to AI solutions, and particularly the way mass commerce AI will be approaching it, which is, I don't have to convince my customer anymore to buy something because it's the right thing for the planet. Because if I just use AI to help their customer journey, help them get more of what they want, in a better experience, all the while on the back end, it's happening in a much more efficient way,
automatically.
Right? And then we get the sustainability. We check that box as well. Customer never has to know. You know what I mean? So I've been ruminating on this for a while, and I just think it's a really, really, I think it has teeth, and I think we're going to see a lot of jump on board.
For sure. Now, I think to conclude to this episode, because I'm sure a lot of people watching this might be having these questions. Like, of course, everything discussed right now sounds amazing from the perspective to medium to large companies, but let's say for people just getting started, it's a small Amazon sellers, Walmart sellers, e-commerce, or they're getting into the medium to large tier, but they're still not there. When it comes to AI, what are some of the things, maybe high level, that they could start implementing that you think could have driving an effect in their business when it comes to profitability and being a little bit more sustainable, and smaller scale, basically.
And I would honestly say, like, for SMBs, like, that's where, like, the sustainability, just consider that something that's going to be like a nice added benefit if you really lean into the tech, right? Because, I mean, better than me, I think I might launch a couple of brands, some private brands, just because I've got the brain trust of folks to sort of help me.
And you have the experience, come on. You have the experience.
I was talking to Kevin, and he was like, 9 out of 10 of those, 9 out of 10 of you won't make it. I'm like, okay, well, we don't have to boil the ocean. Let's start here. We'll see where we go. But what I do understand is, like, when you're starting those businesses, cash flow is just, absolutely mission critical. Every dollar, every spent or saved matters, right? And so I would just, at a high level, say, focus on the AI solutions that are going to help you do that, right? Become instantly more productive, make smarter decisions. So, a couple of it, or avoid the downfalls or the negative impact of some bad decisions that you did make. So, one example, I mentioned Infinite, right, is one that's just something that has the ability, like, look, I've got a product. I need to make sure the listing looks great, right? I'm gonna use one of these providers like Infinite or Lily, right, or Scale or Echo, to just help me spend very little on photography and get really, really great rich media photos, right? And that's going to be good for Amazon, or on Amazon, right? Obviously, your account fee, I think, includes now usage of Hex, which is a very similar offering. But for Walmart, we know, of course, the algo prioritizes imagery, so, like, that's going to be winning your sales. listing, in terms of like the keywords, and not just which keywords, but where you place them. I mean, as we know, like this has been a big pain point for folks trying to bring their catalog over from Amazon to other marketplaces where the algo treats, keywords differently. And so there's a lot of providers that do that. I mean, I was talking with Justin Maynor, who you know, recently, and he's launched a new venture called detailpages.com, which is doing, precisely this. I remember months ago, doing a pod with Ryan King at a Blue Rise agency, where this is back in the time when people were just creating hacks, and they were just using ChatGPT to create sort of like Excel spreadsheet hacks, and they were just kind of sharing broadly. I think that's probably out there, right? So there's a lot of versions of that as well. If you from a sourcing to manufacturing standpoint, just look, you overproduce, right? Like I was at Alibaba's offices a few weeks ago and met Elizabeth, who's really doing amazing things on TikTok Shop, and have just gone from 0 to 100 there so quickly. But look, and she's got a methodology about like how much to produce so that you can give enough product to the content creators and the affiliate network to get the engine going through viral videos. But look, we're not all going to peg that right, and invariably you're going to produce too much, right?
Exactly.
There's providers like Ghost, which is GHST.io, which is a B2B marketplace. And this will be relevant for both our resellers on the call, our diverters, but also our brand owners, because it's basically about bringing buyer and seller together for surplus inventory, right? Using AI, using data, because if you overproduce, and this works for big companies too. I mean, this is going to be one of the partners we'll be bringing to the table for even large legacy folks. I mean, L'Oreal, for example, we all know the example of L'Oreal. Right. When I started at Walmart 5 years ago, on the ad side, that conversation was, we're losing the buy box to PharmaPack. This is we're buying an ad for the lipstick, but we're not getting the sale because PharmaPack won the buy box and they own the transaction. Well, two reasons. One, the ads logic on our side needed to be changed so that we, the logic that first determine who was the winner of the buy box, and then determine which ad would fire. Okay, that's fixed. But the larger problem was somebody at L'Oreal decided to offload some surplus inventory, right, and didn't tell a lot of the other divisions. Okay. And this brings us back to this notion of like matrix organizations and getting left and right hand talking to each other. Because then when I was in the marketplace division, the version of the L'Oreal problem was, they'd already gone in with PharmaPacks and were doing strategic planning with them, because they realized that was I think this is my inference, because they realized that was a way for the marketing e-com side to sort of take control of a situation that had not been solved yet. So their question was always, and increasingly, like sellers, brand owners would want, kick that reseller off because they're illegitimate. Well, on open marketplaces, it's not so simple. They really have to be doing, they have to be a bad actor, right? Non-compliant. Yeah. So what Ghost does is it says, okay, L'Oreal, or okay, startup who are 6 months in and you produce too much, for your TikTok business, bring that directly to a platform. You actually, start the bid, and you say how much you got of what and where it is, right, and what it costs. And and then on the other side, on the buy side, that's where the diverters and resellers come, and they can search for that. So it's absolutely a marketplace in every respect. But it basically, allows you to be intentional about that, right? Yeah. And save margin that you would otherwise trade to a third party, right? Because it's like, they're not doing it for free. It's like they're gonna keep their chunk, and they're gonna juice it up, and then everybody along that value chain, takes a piece. This allows you to basically broker directly with the reseller community, right? And then actually develop a relationship. Not only do you save, on margin, where it's going, and who's got it, right? Yeah. So those are like the three examples, right, that I think a startup all the way to a legacy enterprise could find immediately.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, to be honest, this episode alone opened my mind so much about AI. I think most people, when it comes to AI, they just get stuck that AI is only good for maybe doing some quick copies, some blogs, some images, and they stop there. But now that you open my mind about how the bigger picture is looking like for this enterprise and medium companies and even small companies, as you just gave the example, is crazy. And that's why I think, with this new venture you're doing in the space, you're definitely going to add so much value. And I'm sure it is gonna go to the moon, man. I see it coming. Maybe we even work together, because I'm sure even for us as an agency, there are things that we should be using AI that we're not. So very excited about this, man. And before we conclude, I'm sure some people now might be wondering, maybe I'm at that stage that I already have certain volume, 7, 8 figures. Maybe AI is really the moment for me. So for
Yep.
those that want to reach out and explore how you can help them reach this, balance between profitability and being sustainable at the same time, like what are some of the contacts you can share with us? Yeah.
Yeah. Was that sorry, Italian accent? Was that contacts or context?
Contacts.
Contacts. How do you find Matthew? Right? How do you find Matthew? Masscommerce.ai, and that's one S in mass. My initials, Matthew Adam Smith. So also being a Latin guy, it's Spanish for more. Mas is more. So
Exactly.
just a nice sort of double entendre. So mass or masscommerce.ai, right, is where you'll find me. You can also go to my LinkedIn, and I would love it if you guys follow me on LinkedIn as well, Matthew Adam Smith. And I had to use the whole name because it's just so damn common. The more people I met, the more
I know. I remember first time I met you, and I was trying to look for you, man. It took me like 1 hour to find you. Yeah.
I think I got a big enough following now that if you put the whole name in, it'll start to
Yeah.
auto-populate and you'll find me. But yeah, I would love for people to follow me there as well, because the other side of the business is going to be content. We're going to be doing podcasts, video series, etc., on thought leadership to sort of share, this wisdom, share this advice, not just from my perspective. We're going to be having on, the experts who are building this space. And so I think if people can follow me there, we're going to be putting up great content. We're going to be, polling the audience often, right, about what kinds of stuff they need to learn, et cetera. So
Yep.
I didn't invent this model. I've been watching people like you do this, on your YouTubes and your Facebook groups. And I'm also are you starting to see, like, you guys are creeping into TikTok? I'm starting to see all you guys on TikTok.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of TikTok.
You're in my feed.
We are attacking all the fronts, man.
Yeah, so follow Matthew Adam Smith on LinkedIn and go to masscommerce.ai. Ping us there. You can book a consultation. And also, just don't miss Vincenzo or Enzo's or Vincenti's next episode, because he keeps up in the ante here.
Thank you.
With this episode, notwithstanding, you usually up the ante with the guest.
Thank you for being on the show, man. It's definitely, you drop a few bombs here, even for me. So it's definitely a pleasure to have you. And I'm sure this is just the beginning, because based on, your amazing success track history, this is going to be another, medal. And I'm sure in a couple of months, once we meet again, you're going to have other tricks you can share with us. So looking forward to them, man. Yeah.
Enzo, next time we speak, you better know what GBQ stands for.
I will do my homework. I promise. Yeah.
Thanks, man. This is awesome. Good to see you, brother.
Man. Pleasure. See you. Bye-bye.
Later.